Who are you? What do you do? And what are you building?
I'm Kevin. I'm the founder of L1X. L1X is a decentralized smart contract platform with built-in interoperability. And in that process, we found there were a lot of gaps in the infrastructure itself. And that's why
There's plenty of layer ones out there. What did you guys feel that you were bringing to the table that was truly novel?
Bitcoin isn't trying to replace gold, it's trying to solve its limitations. Similarly, L1X isn't trying to replace any layer one out there, it's trying to solve its limitation. And one of the biggest limitations that we saw was
Phenomenal. I'm here super excited today to chat with Kevin from Layer 1X and associated quantum Dex, and we'll get into that division and what that means soon here. Kevin, who are you? What do you do? And what are you building?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me here. I've been waiting to get on your show. But anyhow, yeah. So I'm Kevin. I'm the founder of Layer 1X and Quantum Dex. Layer 1X is a decentralized smart contract platform with built-in interoperability, which I started back in 2021 as a PhD project of mine, at the University of Western Australia, which is part of the G8, one of the top 100 universities in the world. Prior to this, I also built Australia's first blockchain-based reward system that got listed on the Australian Securities Exchange. And in that process, I found there were a lot of gaps in the infrastructure itself while you're trying to build a blockchain-based app. And that's why, I wish I knew it earlier, but how hard it was going to be. But I decided to take up this Herculean task of building a layer one, coming out of Perth, Australia. And since then, of course, we've launched the mainnet. There are applications being built. There are millions of transactions being processed, and we launched L1X coin at the start of this year in January at 15 cents. Currently, it's trading at over $20. And we haven't even innovated, we just haven't innovated the tech side of things. We've even come up with our own tokenomics model, from scratch. And yeah, I think that's about L1X.
Mm-hmm. So talking about L1X, what did you decide to bring to the table that was new? Obviously, we have a bunch of different solutions. We have the Ethereum has the Solana has some people that think a different solution is better, but there's plenty of layer ones out there. What did you guys feel that you were bringing to the table that was truly novel?
Yeah, I think, like how Bitcoin isn't trying to replace gold, right? It's like it's trying to solve its limitations. Similarly, L1X isn't trying to replace any layer one out there. It's trying to solve its limitation. And one of the biggest limitation that we saw was fragmentation of assets across multiple different networks, and how inefficiently we are actually scaling Web3 today while fragmenting the assets further. So that's where interoperability was always at the core of Layer 1X, where we always believe that assets should never leave its own network. But at the same time, when you're trying to build complex applications, that's the time where your logic in terms of how you want your assets to be represented across from one chain to the other, I think that should not be redundant. And we built our own Oracle system, we built our own relayer, we built our own smart contract, standard for cross-chain transactions or cross-chain messaging, where you've got smart contract standards for token, you've got smart contract standards for various type of non-fungible tokens as well. But we don't have any standard for cross-chain transactions. So that's where we came up with our own cross-chain compatible smart contract, and that's built and baked into our layer one itself.
Interesting. How do you view the competitive landscape of chains? Because obviously we have chains that are kind of looking to eat the entire stack, but it seems like your chain with its Oracle system, and then the way it integrates with other chains is a bit different. Can you talk to me about where you sit in the competitive space?
Yeah, I think you had this whole run around scalability and speed, and over reliance on decentralized exchanges in terms of layer one adoption. So we've seen that with Ethereum, we've seen that with Binance Chain, we've seen that with Solana, and with us, in our take, what we are trying to mainly focus upon is the ability for projects and applications from the very get-go. What I mean by that is your innovation gets funded right at the first, fundamentals get funded at the end. In our case, we are still not ready for projects to even list on blockchain in today's day in a seamless approach. For example, you have to come up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in liquidity. You got to make your token cross-chain compatible. You got to think about the fragmentation issue in terms of what users you want from what ecosystem, right? Because it is ecosystem driven. And I think that's where we are trying to focus upon, which is we are trying to be the launchpad layer one for projects. And that does not limit them to only layer 1x, but at the same time, they can access users from other networks as well, and the liquidity from other networks. So at the end of the day, if there are, if you think about it, more than 68 to 70% of the projects that list today, they list with less than $25,000 in liquidity, where the chances of survival is less than 15% after 6 months. So there is something definitely wrong in the way projects are actually launching today. So solving that fundamental problem of projects coming on board is what we are focusing upon.
Mm-hmm. And that leads into the ecosystem a bit. So tell me about how the ecosystem has developed since launch. Who's building on the platform, and take us through what that looks like.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of projects that are building. We've got projects all the way from decentralized behavioral insights, to meme coins launching on layer 1x. For example, we had a project called Insight Genesis that that's building with us. That's backed by HSBC. That's letting you analyze your face and voice and come up with decentralized behavioral insights that can be used across smart contracts. On the other hand, we've got launchpads that are building with us as well. We also have AI-based, agentic models based on reinforcement learning building with us. We've got meme coins, for example. One of the coins that launched with us, that shot up 30,000%, and the ecosystem is still holding strong, which is called Biscuit Token. But our signature product, like our crown jewel at the moment, is something called as Quantum Dex. I'll get into what Quantum Dex is, in the coming in the next few minutes. But think about Quantum Dex as our show of faith, or our utility based on how projects can actually become the bootstrapping model on layer 1x. Like, if our goal has been to be the layer 1 launchpad for projects, Quantum Dex helps us do that for the projects.
Mm-hmm. And the projects that have launched on layer 1x so far, what do you think has attracted them to the ecosystem?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things over there. I think the first one itself is, so we have come up with the first of its kind non-reserve based liquidity backed loan model, all driven through smart contracts. So if you as a project, let's say, Jack, you're launching your own token, and I'm sure it's going to do well if you do launch it on L1X. I'll be the first one to buy it anyways. So let's say if you're launching your own token, the first thing that you want to do is you want to get your liquidity, right? So what we have done is we believe that you should be able to get liquidity based on the quality of your project. And we have built an AI-based model that analyzes your project and gives you up to $2 million in liquidity pool loan. But at the same time, it's anti-rug proof. So you cannot rug your users out of that liquidity pool. That's number one. That has never been done before. And we've seen projects that are launched with us. More than 25 projects have launched with us, and majority of them, like 80% of them, are trading above their listing price, and 100% of them are trading above the listing price that have gone through the loan model, right? So it's an option. The second one is the moment you launch on layer 1x or Quantum Dex, your token is instantly cross-chain compatible. So people from Solana, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Binance, Avalanche, Optimism, all these other chains can buy into your token and sell out of your token as well. And the third one, I think, is also to do with the speed and the cost of things, because what happens over here is we definitely neglect that these projects need developers. They are resources and hours that go into development of these things. So when you build with layer 1x, not only your token goes cross-chain compatible, but at the same time you're also saving man hours in terms of pushing it out to the users over there. Because L1X has built a Layer 1X app which allows you to host your project inside them, and all the users of the protocol, they symbiotically use these projects on and off. So it's like the situation where, first you listed your restaurant on Uber because you wanted to be noticed, but today people know about your restaurant and go to Uber, right? So that's where what is happening with Uniswap today. And with us, because it's of course a new DEX that's upcoming, and the users, the community is also growing, there is an opportunity for these projects to be noticed. And with the liquidity coming in, there is some serious transactions that go through as well.
Talk to me about the swapping mechanism. So I think that's important for how you guys fit in this stack. The fact that you're accessible by all these chains. How does that actually work from a tech perspective?
Yeah. So that's where, most of our 8 months of research went into the white paper in terms of the interoperability side. And that's what my PhD was based upon. So think of it this way. With bridges, right, you've got 3 to 4 different connectors. What I mean by that is, first you need to be able to connect to that specific chain using an adapter, saying that, okay, I recognize this specific chain. The second one is a relayer. Now, once the adapter allows you to connect to that specific chain, the relayer understands that any information coming through has to go through the adapter and to the relayer as to where does it need to go next in that specific ecosystem. Then you've got your logic contract as to, if I get this message from a relayer, where do I need to send it, right? And then you also have your consensus contracts on these chains for bridges, because bridges inherently do not have a foolproof consensus mechanism. They rely on lightweight nodes, or they rely on the chains that they are working on. What Layer 1X has done is it has integrated 3 different components into its ecosystem or into its Layer 1 itself. First is the Oracle. The second one is the adapter, and third one is the smart contract that executes cross-chain transaction. So if you are trying to build a simple application that sends message from one chain to the other, you do not need to utilize any contract of Layer 1X on the source or the destination chain. From the start to the beginning, you have complete control and access of these contracts. The only thing that you actually do is register your message on the Layer 1X protocol to send and receive these messages to and from. So at any point in time, Layer 1X contracts on any of these chains, they don't exist, first of all. That reduces the attack vectors. And secondly, because we don't consume that kind of transaction resources, the time to execute is also less. And when your time to execute is also less, even then your attack vectors are actually reduced down, because it's taking you less time to complete a certain thing out as well. So that's where we have completely focused on this bridgeless approach, where we don't want ownership of the message when we are sending it from one place to the other. From the relayer, from the Oracle system, and from the smart contract that actually sends and receives your message, you are in complete control of that specific event.
So from a user perspective, what does that look like? Let's say I have funds on ETH and I'm looking to swap into an L1X meme coin. How does that process happen?
Yeah. So what will happen in that case is that we have 2 types of nodes. One is an Xtalk node and one is a full validator node. Xtalk node is responsible for sending and receiving messages across chains, and full validator node is responsible for executing transactions on L1X. What's going to happen over here is your ETH that you hold on the Ethereum network will be deposited into a liquidity pool that the Xtalk contract recognizes, saying that, okay, this is our liquidity pool on the Ethereum network, and you deposit your money in there. There are specific events that the Xtalk node is listening to. These events are heard, and on the destination side, the L1X meme coin is gone and issued out to you on your specific address without having 4 or 5 different contracts interacting with each other.
Mm-hmm. So the chain is issued natively on the chain, the token is issued natively on the chain, or not Correct. Natively, but it's issued on the chain itself. Very cool. Awesome. Well, that segues us nicely into Quantum Dex, which is another piece of the puzzle. Talk to me why this fits so well with the Layer 1 ecosystem. The Layer 1X ecosystem.
Yeah, I think, from the very beginning, we wanted to focus upon projects to onboard them to be like, a launchpad, ecosystem for ongoing projects, because the way we kind of look at it is, the 2025 has seen the maximum number of project deaths, like if you think about it from any specific year. And when we try to look at it, we see three different reasons for that, apart from, okay, if the project isn't delivering, if they don't have a good community, they run out of funding. But three main reasons are, the first is not enough liquidity when they launch. The second one is the token isn't cross-chain compatible. And the third one that we see is that there is no virtuous cycle that is created between the liquidity and the community. So if your liquidity is less than $25,000, $20,000, your virtuous cycle of buying into your liquidity and starting that buying process again, it doesn't happen. So Quantum Dex is a one-stop solution. I hate to say this word, but it is a one-stop solution that allows your project to come in. It uses an AI loan analyzer that goes across 250 plus metrics about your project, and then gives you a number in terms of what kind of loan can you receive if you want to start your liquidity pool. So if I, as a project, wanted to start it up today, I could go in there, mint my token as a token builder in less than 5 minutes, launch my project with up to $2 million in liquidity pool. And at the same time, we have re-engineered all the smart contracts that were required, or even invented a few of them, where this loan that is given to you, it cannot be rug pulled out. So the first one is we handle the projects to list with us with up to $2 million in liquidity. And at the same time, even the users don't need to be afraid, because this liquidity cannot be rugged off, right? So when a user is coming in and when they see the loan batch there, they know that the founders cannot rug pull off this liquidity. Mm-hmm. And the second one is we wanted to use the Xtalk or L1X infrastructure to make sure that these projects can go cross-chain immediately as well. So what we do is when you list on Quantum Dex, instantly your token is registered with the Xtalk infrastructure, and people from around the networks or other networks can access your token, buying and selling them. Wow. As well. So these are the two main features that we are gone out with, but we're also working on a third one, which is mainly focused upon an AI-based agentic model based on reinforcement learning, because very soon, right now, we've got 25 pools in less than 8 weeks of launch. Very soon, when we cross a few hundred pools, what's going to happen over there is the pools are going to get saturated in terms of the focus or the attention of the user going on that specific pool. So we believe that the AI agent will actually do justice to that, bringing the best performing pools out for the user himself. And we have already started the process of when the user can go in, analyze the token, make a specific decision based on that analysis, and slowly maneuver into this AI agentic reinforcement model. And that is what my second PhD is into as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's almost like, I guess, did you take any inspiration from models like Pump Fund, Virtuals, other Launchpads? And what did you see and what did you want to change about these models?
So I looked at Curve's dynamic emission model, Aerodrome's dynamic emission model, and I kind of feel that I definitely like the concept of dynamic emissions, but also at the same time, what happens over there is that in today's in the DEXs, dynamic emissions are based on time and liquidity, where I think it should be based on performance and engagement, right? So what we have done over there is we have changed the way how dynamic emissions in Quantum Dex work. So we did take certain inspiration, but what we have done over here is we have something called as QST token, which is currently on its first sale at the least Dex valuation. But anyhow, what will happen over here is once you stake your QST, you get the governance token. And you can then go and vote for pools where another token called QET will be issued out based on how much you interact with that pool. So QET is like a reward token, basically. And this reward token will be given dedicated to a specific pool, but the GQST holders have to vote which pool is it going to be. So I, as a user, if I am going to be motivated as a GQST holder, I'm going to be motivated to vote for a pool, then the pool owners have to make sure that they reward me enough in their project tokens, maybe, for me to go and vote for that pool. But at the same time, what's happening here is QET is only issued out when somebody interacts with the pool. It's not the fact that there is just liquidity parked in there, because liquidity is a time bomb. Like, it's going to go out of that pool very soon. And because we have solved the problem of liquidity through the loan model, all we need to focus upon is the engagement piece into that specific pool through the QET mechanisms.
That's really interesting. Is there not a worry of this like misincentive where if you're incentivized to just perform and suck attention, does it move into this kind of like, loop around just increasing price, increasing emissions, or in favor of projects that are kind of like more slowly and steadily building, or how do you view that kind of dilemma?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen here is, because at the end of the day, we are bringing the starting line almost the same for everyone with the liquidity loan model, because
Right.
projects are compared based on what kind of liquidity you've got, first number, right? And we kind of bringing it to the starting line. I feel that the only way to remove the discrepancy there is through the AI model, where the AI model kind of goes in and analyzes the project, and if it keeps getting better, because it's a capitalist DEX market all over the world, and that we can't change that in a couple of years. That's going to take a century maybe. So what we can do is maybe reduce the impact of capitalism in the DEX market through AI agentic model, and see how it plays out in the long run, rather than focusing on reducing that.
Well, it's interesting to see. I guess kind of the first model was provide your own liquidity, right? And that's why the average token struggles, or you have tokens that need to fundraise and get market makers to raise liquidity, right? And then we saw models like Pump Fund, where basically it was like, well, the model is now that you have no liquidity, and we're gonna like allow people to buy from zero to create an initial kind of like liquidity bootstrapping mechanism. Yours comes out from the kind of completely left field to me. It's an interesting concept where it's like, we're just going to give you the liquidity via this AI model. And it's a very interesting approach. How's community feedback been? How do you feel of Layer 1X and Quantum Dex as kind of like a discovery platform in the way that some of these launchpads can be discovery platforms?
So, to a surprise, like we had 25, projects launch on the Dex with zero to no almost no marketing. We've got 5 projects that are about 10 grand in TVL, 5 to 6 projects. And all of them are performing very well. For example, Biscuit Token is performing like 30,000% upwards, right? And the community is holding strong. Like what we have seen over here is, because this anti-rug mechanism, this loan model kind of like, completely changes the way, how projects list, because they're like, okay, me listing on Uniswap today gives me no advantage, like as compared to me listing on PancakeSwap. Like, it's apples oranges. Like there's no comparative advantage to do that. But if I list on Quantum Dex and I get $1 million liquidity loan, well, I can reduce the price impact for my users. So not only is the Layer 1X community, but even the project community that are listing on Quantum Dex starting to understand this concept around this mercenary capital injection that we had to do before and reward heftily to get the liquidity for the swaps or for the project. That doesn't have to exist, right? And I think that is where the projects are loving Quantum Dex, because the biggest challenge for a project today, I think, is getting enough liquidity to launch on the Dex or even on CEX, and us solving that problem for them straight up for their users. It's been amazing, the kind of recognition we are getting in the community slowly. And again, we are in no rush to push this out there, because like if you look at, for example, Nia Protocol, which has got a Dex, it's got I think 15 projects listed in there. There's hardly any trading going on. We would rather not redo a certain thing and rather solve a problem and go at it slower than solving what has already happened and pushing it through marketing. So I think that organic, real world problem solving is where our direction is, and we are very firm on that direction.
In a DEX model, right, you have the token, and then you have the liquidity pair token, right? The quote token. And these are actually not aligned with each other. So one concern I have with your model where you're loaning liquidity to a project is the fact that if the token performs well, the liquidity loan and in the quote token is actually doing poorly, right? So how do you balance this dynamic?
So currently the quote token over there is L1X coin. And we're keeping that, and it's being stable at $21 over a period of I think a few months. The way I kind of look at this is similarly to what, like, for example, Uniswap has, like, you've got wrapped ETH in there, or you've got wrapped BNB in there. We kind of make sure that any kind of buy coming through, because to buy the project token you have to buy L1X, right? That's the only way you go and buy a project token on Quantum Dex. But at the same time, we kind of make sure that whenever there is a buy coming through that particular specific platform, we go and buy back L1X from the market as well in case the price goes down. So we do try to maintain the price of L1X coin in the market as much as we can to keep the token stable. But again, if the token, if the non-quote token or the reference token in the pool is doing exceptionally well compared to L1X, I don't necessarily see that as a problem. Well, the only problem that will happen is if L1X doesn't do well, right? If the price of L1X probably dips 50%, 60%, then I think that's you're pairing a meme coin with a meme coin. But that's not the case with us. You've got L1X, which is a pretty stable valued coin, and growing, and you've got project tokens that supposedly are doing pretty well. I mean, if you just go to L1Xapp.com and you see the performance over there over a period of 8 weeks, I think that itself will give you the story.
So you kind of view like the moneyness of the L1X token as more important than the possibility of the disadvantages of being a quote token and being an LP for that token.
Yeah, I think so. And because I mean, there has been a good successful record of L1X performing in the market as well now since the start of this year. And again, not to say that the price of L1X won't go up in the future. It would definitely, that's what we're working towards. But again, that's where the QST token comes in, right? And when the QST launches, so currently we are in a QST sale. We are raising only $2 million at 25 cents. We are listing QST on 1st of September at probably $1. So that will also help us to pair with the project tokens if L1X as a reserve asset over there for us isn't doing the job. But according to our study, according to our research, and according to what we are currently seeing, it's acting up well.
Talk to me about these tokens, and I know you have the QST token, and then there's a secondary token. Talk to me about the tokenomic model for your new Dex.
Yeah, so there are 3 tokens on the Quantum Dex, and we over-engineered it a little bit. But again, it comes from a lot of learning, right? You would rather over-engineer it rather than seeing your token disappear. So there are 3 tokens. The first is called QET. It's called the Quantum Entanglement Token. And QET is a reward token. The only thing that you can do with QET is you can go and burn your QET and get QST in return of that burn for that sacrifice that you make. QST is the trading coin, which is going to be traded on the DEX on the CEXs, and QST staking for a period of time based on weightage will give you access to GQST, which is the governance token. Now, what happens over here is the governance token gives you 2 different rights. The first right it gives you is the revenue right from the DEX, right? So the fees that is being collected from the DEX is equally distributed to GQST holders. And the second right it gives you is the voting right. So if dynamic emission has to be given in QET to the pools based on the performance and engagement of it, that is where the GQST holders can go and vote for that specific pool, and in exchange of that, they would be getting the project token as maybe rewards or bribes, as you call it today.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Just a final one, and there are only 100 million QSD coins that we are issuing out. With compared to the other ones out there, which is what we felt was required, and it's a non-inflationary coin. Sorry, it's a deflationary coin, and our goal is to make sure that enough GQSD is maintained by the treasury to go and buy back USD and burn it in the market in the long run.
Mm-hmm. How do you maintain that token as non-inflationary if there's a secondary issuance token in QET which represents kind of a reward token?
Yeah, that's a good one. So QET. So okay, two things to this. The first one is that QET is only issued out based on the fees that is collected on the DEX.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is, if there is $1 fee collected on the DEX, $1 worth of QET will be issued out, which is pegged to the QSD price, right? Now, what is going to happen over here is, in order for you to go in and sacrifice your QET and get QSD, you have to reach a minimum threshold. And every day there is a number that there is an emission in terms of QSD that is done, which is again, which I mentioned previously, which is based on the fee model, right? As to if there was $1 collected, only $1 worth of QET will be issued out. But again, if the what we have seen is not more than 50 to 60% of the users will be able to go in and sacrifice their QET because they won't meet the minimum threshold, and that and the extra amount which was not sacrificed, right? That specific fee amount goes back to the people who has reached that threshold. So if you spend $1 on the fee, for example, you are taking away $2 or $3 because not everyone were able to sacrifice out as well.
And talk to me about the bribe market around liquidity on the platform.
So what happens over here is, all these projects that are currently listing with us now, because the starting line is almost the same, this also creates quite a bit of challenges in terms of how, we can push this emission model. So if there are 5 projects that start with 100 grand in liquidity, what's going to happen over here is, through the loan model, what's going to happen here is the QET that is actually issued out as a reward, it has a multiplier. Meaning, if a certain pool gets voted for, there is a specific multiplier that can be associated to that pool that is only done through the GQSD holders voting for that specific pool. Now, what's going to happen over here is that the GQSD holders will be able to vote for that specific pool and the QET will be multiplied. And then the QET is, as I mentioned previously, according to the fees, it's sacrificed, and then you get your QSD tokens as well.
Why do you view this DEX as so fundamental to the Layer 1X ecosystem? Why not a lot of projects incentivize other DEXs to build on top, or it's some Uniswap fork or something? Why did you guys choose to natively build a DEX and integrate it into the network?
I think, previously when we launched our, XTOC, which is the cross-chain messaging infrastructure, I kind of feel that majority of the projects, in today's market are in between, the 0th and 50th percentile in terms of the complexity of what they require to actually, launch in the market. And if you look at cross-chain infrastructure today and the requirements of that for a specific project in terms of custom solutions for them to go and do something, build something, they are in the 80th, 90th percentile, like in terms of complexity and maturity, right? So we didn't want to, as a new layer 1, you're focusing on the projects that are already mature, and that's kind of a hard get if you think about it, right? Because you're a new layer 1, you're trying to go after the Starbucks of Web3, where they're already focusing upon established layer 1s. So what we decided to do was we decided to solve fundamental problems for existing projects in between the 0th and the 40th percentile that actually have that kind of complexity to solve. And the liquidity loan model, the cross-chain messaging service, are exact solution that these projects require. Like today, there is no single DEX in the world that I can go to if I had raised, let's say, 250 grand. Out of that, I had to spend 150 grand on development. 50 grand on marketing, but I need 200 grand of liquidity to start with. There is no DEX in the world I can go to that can recognize my token as a non-reserve asset collateral and issue out the loan to me. And even though I accept that I don't want to rug pull the users, I'm not going to get that loan. So that is why Layer1X has come up with this concept where it's a self-service checkout process. There is no manual intervention. There's no person sitting at the back. It's all smart contract driven. It's not like we sit at the back and change the database. We don't do all that. It's all driven through the smart contracts. You as a project from start to end, you can go in, borrow the loan and launch your pool immediately.
Mm-hmm. This is the second token that you guys are launching. First the Layer1X token and now QST. What did you learn from the launch of the L1X token and how are you applying it to this launch?
Yeah, I think the what I did learn from the Layer1X launch is, I think a lot of times, the founders like to focus upon the tech too much, right? And marketing, but I think tokenomics should be given equal recognition, right? They deserve, tokenomics deserves equal recognition into it, the emission schedule, the distribution. And with Layer1X, we mainly focused on the tech. We didn't focus too much on the tokenomics. And we did make a few mistakes in the protocol along the way. We corrected it. Now you see that it's trading at $20. But for quantum DEX, there are two things I think which we learned, and we are actually improvising on, which is the tokenomics model first, making sure that from the very beginning, we separate the marketing tokens from the actual utility tokens and reward tokens, right? So these three tokens are different. And the second one, I think, is, the concept around not targeting the higher spectrum of projects. Let's go after projects that actually require a solution rather than, trying to find a problem and then trying to fix that problem somehow, right? So we are going after projects and they are finding us out, about us by themselves. Okay, there's a liquidity loan model going on that's done through smart contracts. And I think, because we haven't, this smart contracts that we built from ground up for the loan model has never been done before. We do have an edge over the other DEXs out as well at the moment because there's no DEX that can help out a project. And I think the lines are getting pretty blurred up. In layer ones, you had these lines pretty blurred out as to, okay, is Avalanche better? Is Optimism better? Which one should I go with? But over here, what we have done is we have created a clear distinction between us and the other DEX as to what you can build with us and what you do not get on the other DEXs for 100% as a matter of fact.
Right. What personally inspires you to continue to work on these problems as a founder?
I think, when I listed my second company and I exited that, from the Australian Securities Exchange, I kind of feel like, one of the most important part is, for me at least, is not getting too lost in, the macroeconomic philosophies of the industry. And that's what I see most of the people doing as well. They get too lost in the macroeconomic fundamentals without understanding that, the biggest element of macro is the micro elements over a period of time. And I think for me, solving ground level problems that I can actually get on a call with a project along with our team, explain to them that, okay, you're in this situation and tomorrow you can be in another situation based on this solution. We're not talking 6 months down the line. We're not selling you a vision. Tomorrow itself, you can launch and with a minimal price impact, let your users buy. I think that instant gratification to bringing instant gratification to an industry that sees long-term satisfaction. I think that is where I try to focus upon as well, because these projects need that, right? Everybody sells them a long-term satisfaction, but we bring instant gratification for them because we've already focused on the long-term thing. So I think as an infrastructure, that is what we should do. And that's what I think drives me every day.
Excellent. Kevin, I think that's an excellent note to wrap up on. We appreciate your time. Where can people find you and learn more about QST?
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about Quantum DEX, you can go to L1Xapp.com, L1Xapp.com, and it's a full-fledged application out there. You have not seen something like this ever before in Web3. So I highly recommend you go to l1xapp.com and try it out. There's tons of information, tons of utility in there, which you can use.
Phenomenal. Excellent. Well, we'll be following along closely. You want to give a little bit of timeline on how this is going to all roll out?
Yeah, so the Dex is already out. We've got 25 projects listed there. We are aiming for over a few hundred by the end of this year. We currently have the quantum sale going on, which is at 25 cents. We are listing it on, at $1, and it's done at $2 million market cap, the quantum Dex sale, and it's pretty low. The market cap is nothing in compared to, we've got that much TVL on the Dex. So it's pretty low in compared to what is being offered. But at the same time, as I mentioned, we intend to be, the Launchpad or the bootstrap layer one for projects out there, and then later on they decide where they want to go in and continue their journey. But yeah, it's pretty exciting. We've got quite a bit of things coming up, like the AI reinforcement models. We've already launched the AI loan analyzer, projects listing up. So very exciting.
Phenomenal. So excellent growth throughout the end of the year and beyond. Well, congratulations for all the progress you've made and what you've built in a really relatively short amount of time. We'll be following closely.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks so much, Kevin.